Susan Kitty Genovese was born in Brooklyn, New York on July 7th, 1935, to parents Vincent and Rachel Genovese. The oldest of 5 children, Genovese was Genovese, I guess Catherine? I don't know. But it says Genovese was a graduate of Prospect Heights High School and remembered as a very good student and voted class cut up in her senior year. I feel like that means class clown, but I guess it doesn't. Maybe it means she's cut above the rest, maybe. Following her graduation in 1953, Kitty's mother witnessed the murder on the streets, which motivated the family to move to New Canaan, Connecticut. Kitty Genovese, however, remained in New York City, working as a secretary at an insurance company and working nights at Eve's 11th Hour, a bar in the Hollis neighborhoods of Queens, first as a bartender, then as a manager, prompting her move to Queens. A decade later, Kitty met her girlfriend, Mary Ann Zelenko, in a Greenwich Village nightclub. Two found a second-floor apartment together in Kew Gardens in Queens, considered a peaceful, safe area to live. Kitty Genovese was returning from work home at around 2:30 a.m. on March 13, 1964, when she was approached by a man with a knife. Kitty ran toward her apartment building front door, and the man grabbed her and stabbed her while she screamed. A neighbor, Robert Mosier, I had a teacher called Robert Mosier in college. Yeah, that threw me off. Okay. Neighbor, Robert Mosier, I don't know, he was in Tennessee. I'm not sure if he was from New York. The neighbor, Robert Mosier, yelled out his window, let that girl alone. Or leave that girl alone. Has to be leave the girl alone. Causing the attacker to flee. Kitty, seriously injured, crawled to the rear of her apartment building, out of the view of any possible witnesses. 10 minutes later, her attacker returned, stabbed her, R-worded her, and stole her money. Wait a minute. All right. That don't make any sense. I don't understand why she didn't go to the hospital. I don't understand why Robert Mosier, that can't be the same guy, because that guy would have said something. No, I'm pretty sure of it. The guy I know anyway. Ain't no way. I don't understand. If I get stabbed, first place I'm going is to the police if I'm not going to the hospital. But I'm going to the hospital first. I'm going to the police. I'm calling 911. Why did he was able to come back 10 minutes later? And why did Mosier not do nothing? That is absolutely insane. That makes no sense at all. Okay, let's keep going, because this is dumb. She was found by neighbor Sophia Farrar, who screamed for someone to call the police, which Mosier should have did. Confused. We're in the same apartment building? Maybe Robert Mosier has to be on the other side because he screamed out his window, so he should have been able to see her. But still, he should have called 911, but I don't know if they'd get there in 10 minutes. Now, okay, let's think. Okay, so Kitty was seriously injured, so she might not have been all the way in her right mind, or physically might not be able to do anything. So maybe I'm wrong about that. So maybe she couldn't do all she could do. Mosier should have called somebody because 911 should have already been there. He runs the first time, runs away. I don't get it. And so Mosier doesn't come over or nothing like that? Like somebody say, be right there, call 911, anything? Okay. So basically Kitty, she crawls to the rear of her apartment building, out of the view of any possible witnesses. But why does she do that? I know she's not in her right mind, but I need people to see I got stabbed so somebody can help me. Oh man. Yeah, this was back in 1960. Yes, jeez. Okay. 10 minutes later, her attacker returned, stabbed her, R-worded her, and stole her money. Jeez, stole her? Golly. Like, you could have took my money without having to do all that. She was found by her neighbor, Sophia Farrar, who screamed for someone to call the police. Police arrived several minutes later. Kitty died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The murder elicited a brief news item in the New York Times. It was 4 a.m. when the police knocked in the apartment door and informed Mary Zelenko about the stabbing of Kitty's death. It wasn't until around 7 a.m. that Detective Mitchell Sang arrived to question Mary, who was being consoled with liquor by neighbor Carl Ross. Detective Sang found Carl intrusive to the questioning and arrested him for disorderly conduct. Detective Sang also knew that Kitty's body was discovered laying at the bottom of the stairs leading to Carl's apartment. Later, homicide detectives John Carroll and Jerry Burns arrived and grilled Mary on her relationship with Kitty. The questioning took an inappropriate turn, focusing on their sex life, and lasted for 6 hours. Much of the police questioning of the neighbors revealed a preoccupation with a gay lifestyle, and Mary was considered a suspect because she was gay, really? Or lesbian, whatever the proper term is. Okay, yes. But this is a different time, so yeah, the police probably did do that. Later that week, the police got a call about a suspected robbery. When police showed up, they found a television in the trunk of a suspect's car. The man, Winston Mosley, was arrested and taken to the station, where he confessed to the stealing of appliances, of a dozen appliances, many of times. Mosley drove a white Corvair, and this struck Detective John Tartaglia, who remembered that some witnesses to Kitty's murder had reported seeing a white car. This was mentioned to Winston, who said nothing. Detective Tartaglia called in Detective John Carroll and Mitchell Sang. They noticed scabs on Winston's hands and accused him of killing Kitty. Winston replied that he had and confirmed information that only the murderer would know. Winston had spotted Kitty at a traffic light while he sat in his parked car and then followed her home. He had been driving around Queens looking for a victim, but had no motive for the attack. Really? That's just okay. Like I said, in these stories, you realize how sick some of these people are. Winston was married with 3 children and had no prior record. What is going on? Why? Later interrogations would have Winston confess to several other R words and 2 other murders, those of Annie Mae Johnson and Barbara Kralik. Winston was sentenced to death. Okay, all right. Sentenced to death on June 15, 1964. It was reduced to a life sentence. Oh, I prefer the death sentence for that. Yeah, a lot of these people, once you start getting multiple people, man, it should be a life or a life. Especially these people killing kids. That should be death sentence right there. But, who am I? Who am I to judge? It was reduced to a life sentence in 1967. He would later claim that a mobster executed Kitty, and he was only the getaway driver. Winston's son stated that he believed Winston attacked Kitty because she yelled racial slurs at him. Winston died in jail on March 28, 2016, at 81 years old. On March 27, 1964, the New York Times ran an article titled 37 Who Saw Murder Didn't Call the Police. That's what I'm saying. Oh, that's why they're saying it's a mob attack, maybe. I don't know, but still, I can call the police. They won't know that I called. I'm gonna say shut the window. Yeah, because I still don't understand the Mosier situation. That's one of the weirdest things I'm reading right now. Okay. Let's see. Alleging that multiple neighbors killed the police, but did nothing to help her. The report was prompted by a conversation between Times editor A.M. Rosenthal and Police Commissioner Michael Murphy, during which Police Commissioner Murphy made the claim that was the basis for the article. The newspaper followed it up the next day with analysis speaking to several experts on the psychology of why people would choose to not get involved. Later in the year, Rosenthal adapted this information into a book called 38 Witnesses. The Kitty Genovese case. The New York Times coverage has been criticized for numerous factual errors and accused of contriving a social phenomenon for sensationalistic purposes. Man, too many syllables. Decades following the murder, a journalistic movement began to correct the misinformation perpetuated by the New York Times stories. In 2004, journalist Jim Rasenberger wrote an article for the Times debunking the claims of the 1964 reporting. A 2007 article in the American Psychologist by 2007 article in American Psychologist by Rachel Manning, Mark Levine, and Alan Collins further deflates Rosenthal's claims. In 2015, Kitty's younger brother, Bill, produced and narrated the documentary The Witness, which lays out the case against the Times reporting in strong terms. Only 2 neighbors have been shown to behave at the time of the murder in the way the Times claimed 38 people did. One of those was Carl Ross. Intoxicated that night, Carl heard noises and, after deliberation, cracked open his door to investigate. He saw Kitty laying on the ground, still alive and attempting to speak, and Winston Mosley stabbing her. He shut the door and called a friend to ask what to do. What? What? Called a friend what to do? Really? All right. Okay. So So you know this person, but you're not going to help them at all. All right. The friend said not to get involved. Okay. Carl eventually, not even called 911. Carl eventually climbed out of his window and went to a neighbor's apartment. He called the police after hearing Sophie Farrar call for someone to do so. Carl's explanation, I didn't want to get involved, became the famous rejoinder by the bystander effect. This is so. The phenomenon called the bystander effect, or the Genovese syndrome, explains to attempts to explain why someone witnessing a crime would not help the victim. Psychologists Bib Latney and John Darley made their careers studying the bystander effect and have shown in clinical experiments that witnesses are less likely to help a crime victim if there are other witnesses. The more witnesses, the less likely any one person will intervene. The bystander effect was used to press as a parable of a morally bankrupt modern society losing its compassion for others, particularly in cities. The murder of Kitty Genovese is credited as one of those factors that pushed the emergency 911 system into place after New York City officials joined in a national effort involving officials in other cities. It became the national emergency number in 1968. Oh wow, is that how that 911 came into place? Honestly, I did not know that. But wait, how you call the police then? Oh man, I wonder if that makes my takes earlier. Probably make my takes earlier sounds very dumb. But still, you could call the police, right? There still had to be a way to call the police. That didn't make any sense. Even if 911 isn't the same way it is now, back then, there still had to be a number to call the police station. And I'm pretty sure everybody would have had that because I know they had phone books back in the day. And that probably should have been one of the main. Ugh, man. Yeah, somebody else puts 1968 is shockingly recent for the introduction of an emergency services number. I didn't know that. It says, I must admit, I had to stop and reread when I saw that. Pretty scary that it wasn't a thing only 54 years ago. Yeah, that is absolutely insane. Ooh, man, that is tough. And my thing is, why did it take her to die for y'all to do that?